Merry meet, guys. Welcome back to Witch to the Moon. I'm your Wednesday host, Houston, and this week we are talking about pendulum dowsing, which we have covered in a past season. We're just getting some new outlooks and sharing our experiences. Pendulum dowsing, also known as radiesthesia, radiesthesia, sorry, is the sensitiveness held to enable a person with the aid of a dowsing rod or a pendulum to detect things such as the presence of underground water, the nature of an illness, or the guilt of a suspected person, also known as dowsing. So that is the scientific term, the art of radiesthesia. There are tons of classes online, and I do believe Jennifer and Natalie did a great overview of the topic. I apologize. Of pendulums and how they use them. I agree with some things, like with everything. You don't agree with everything. I don't agree that pendulum is used just for yes or no questions. That's one of the things that I don't agree with. And I also, in my personal experience, I have found out that each pendulum crystal or pendulum type has its own way of answering yes or no. I got into a really heated discussion when I was taking a pendulum class online, and I've always, when I taught myself, and my partner teaches this class, I always believe that the pendulum is an extension of yourself, but it's also in and of itself you're working with the spirit of the crystal, or of the wood, or of the metal, or any other material that you're using. You can use anything as long as it has a weight. You're working with that spirit to answer questions, to connect to higher power, to connect to your spirit guides, to answer a yes or no question, or something more complex with the help of a spirit board or one of the pendulum pads, which I was trying to find before the video. I have like 2 of them, but I can't find it. Some of them have yes, no, maybe. Some of them have the alphabet spread out into like a circle with numbers, with yes or no, the lines in the middle. I have the alphabet one and the yes and no. Just don't know what I did with it. So, not it. I have more than one. The only thing is, I have a feeling that after knowing this video, I'll find it. But that just means I wasn't supposed to show you guys. But, like I was saying, I believe each crystal has its own unique vibration of how it says yes or no, or it doesn't know, or something else, how it detects energy. The crystal that I use most often, let's not get to jump to that first. I'm jumping around. So for me, I always have a pendulum with most of the tarot decks that leave the house, or oracle decks if they'll fit in the box. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So any tarot deck that I take with me, like take with me to work, take with me to, if I'm working a psychic fair, taking over to a friend's house, I always have a pendulum in with the tarot cards that I believe matches the energy of the tarot cards. So with my Wizards deck, the one I use a lot, and I use a pipe case for it. But on the back of it, the back pocket, this is the front pocket I pulled it out of. The back pocket, I have reading cloths, bandanas and stuff to put my cards on, but there's a little bag that came with it that I house a pendulum. A clear quartz pendulum with hemp string and wire wrap. The wire wrap has been super glued and epoxied, so it's not going anywhere. But if I have something come up in a reading, like if I'm reading for a client or reading for myself, and I'm unsure of what it means, I go to the pendulum and I ask questions, and the pendulum usually will answer the questions. If I'm not supposed to know, then it won't, let me go any further. And the oracle deck I was talking about is the Halloween oracle. It's huge on the inside. It's one of my favorite oracles. But with it, I house do you believe that's ruby and zoisite? Yep. It's a ruby and zoisite pendulum. You need to get rechained. But they're with these cards. So, and I think with my steampunk tarot, I have, which is what I take with me to work all the time, I have my first pendulum I ever bought, which is a bloodstone pendulum with a silver 10 little point. Then in my fairy tarot deck, I have an aventurine pendulum, and I do have other pendulums that I bought for my old job. I have a lepidolite, I have a mookite jasper one in here. I know you can't really see because it's in plastic. And then I have a smoky quartz. Nope, crystal quartz. Another crystal clear crystal quartz. I haven't used these. When I see something pretty or I'm drawn to something, I have a tendency to buy it. I see it as collecting them. My partner sees it as hoarding. So tomato. But I haven't gone too crazy. I don't believe I have anyway. But so like I was saying, there are many ways other than answering yes or no questions that you can use a pendulum for. Natalie touched it a little bit at the end of her video about finding missing objects, also finding missing people. And I don't mean like if you don't know where your partner is because he hasn't texted you back in like 30 minutes, you whip out the pendulum and see if you can find them. I mean, it's probably a good test. You can try it if you want to. I'm not going to say it's not going to work. But I mean, like, it's been used in police cases when they call in a psychic for a missing kid or need to find a body. It's rare the psychic uses pendulum dowsing just because they use their other abilities first. Pendulum dowsing is kind of a last resort because with your other abilities you're able to see, sense, hear, smell, taste the surroundings where the body could be or where the person could be or whatever, but this is totally off topic. So it can be used for that. It can also be used to contact spirits, to I have a specific pendulum I made. So this guy's got a unikite bottom with a desert jasper and a forest jasper beading with, I think that's unikite. Nope, not unikite. I lied. It's a forest jasper pendant, and then a unikite ring. Hold my finger to put it on my finger, so I don't have to pinch it. It's kind of, it is long, but I made that in one of our craft classes that we had a long time ago. How to make a pendulum or how to make jewelry. So I made a pendulum. I didn't want to make prayer beads. I don't remember what it was for, but I remember we were all crafting something with beads and gemstones and stuff. So, but I use this one to work with the spirits that I work with. So I use that to contact them to answer, yes or no questions, to spell out stuff. Since I'm not a fan of using the spirit board by itself or by myself, because it takes a lot of energy to sit and do the spirit board by itself, by yourself. It does take a lot of energy to do that because the spirits basically feed off you to move the planchette. And since most of the time when I'm doing my not spell work, but when I'm doing a session like that, I'm usually not at the highest point of my energy. It's rare for me to be super hyper anymore. But so there's multiple things. From what I was taught when I started is you get your pendulum out. And I'll use this guy for an example. And I always start with show me yes. And it'll swing back and forth. Or however it shows you. I'm saying back and forth because I know how this pendulum works. Okay, stop. Show me no. And I know my hand's moving a little bit because it's tiring. Okay, stop. And then I usually say, show me don't know. Sometimes the pendulum will move. And it's an anti-clockwise circle. Okay. And yes, my hand was moving, so I'm human. not perfectly still, but I do have a stand somewhere. I do use something for a stand to where if my arm is given, like if I need precise for a reading, to use it that way. So it doesn't look like I'm influencing the reading. I start off with those 3 questions, and I start off with questions that I already know the answers to, just to get a feel for the pendulum, to make sure that, it's moving right. And then I go into the questions. I do ask more than once to make sure, because you really do want to validate the responses that you're either getting from your higher self, your spirit guides, and I think like anything, because I'm speaking more from a spirit contact than just asking your pendulum yes or no questions. When you contact a spirit via pendulum or talking to them or what have you, you want to validate the information that they give you to make sure that they're not a trickster. Not every spirit is nice, and not everyone tells the truth. So you want to make sure. Usually the rule of 3 works. And I say the rule of 3, like you ask it 3 times, and if the answer is, if they're going to lie, the answer is going to be, off in a way. And you'll feel it, and you'll also know that after you answer it, after you ask, and it says one thing, the next one will be something totally different, the next one will be something totally different, And then, you can just ask the spirit to leave, and then ask your spirit guide or your higher self, unless you were talking to a specific, like trying to talk to the spirits of the land or the genius loci. If you're trying to speak to them, they could be tricksters depending on how they feel about you and your energy, or they could be, straight up truthful and blunt, depending on if you've worked with them, if you built a relationship with them, or things like that. So I think, and I've kind of gone off topic, and I'm sorry, I do that a lot, but I think each pendulum is different because of the vibration of the crystal or the material that's used. So I always recommend trying different ones. Some of them will definitely not work for you. I have 1 or 2 that don't work for me at all. Like I will ask it a question and it'll just dangle. It won't do anything. It won't move. And when I try to, move it, it moves a little bit. Then when I stop, it deadpans again. So I was like, okay, maybe me and this crystal is we're not jiving. So yeah. I have to say one of the coolest experiences that I've ever, the last thing I tell you before I get off for today. The coolest experience I ever had with a pendulum, and it wasn't really using a pendulum directly, is I was teaching a psychometry class, which psychometry is psychic touch, psychic feeling, able to pick up an object and tell the history of an object, who's used it, images where it's stored, how it's, the emotions that have been around it, things like that. I was teaching a class at my old job where it was psychic development, but I was like, since one person out of the class really understood psychic abilities, but the other 2 didn't. They were kind of new to it. So I was like, okay, we'll start off basic beginner. Your biggest organ on your body is your skin. It's your biggest organ. So I was like, it's the best thing to work with. So we'll start with psychometry. And so I told them before to bring objects that we'll have laid out on a table, and that each of us will pick up and try to get a general impression. And of course, you can't pick up your object because that's kind of cheating. That you brought and say, hey, this is, yada, 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 yada. So one of the students, he brought in his wooden pendulum. And it was my turn. We went around in a circle and we did it. And I was like, I'm going to participate because, of course, this is also practice for me. So he brought in his wooden pendulum. And I was like, okay, that looks really cool. I've never seen a wooden pendulum like that. It was in the shape of a goddess. It was really pretty. I don't know what type of wood or anything like that. I didn't ask him. I just picked it up and I held it in my hand, and I closed my eyes, and all of a sudden these images started flashing before my face, but like before my eyes, they just started flashing. I saw him at a desk with a little desk lamp that you see like in old studies, and then I see a bookcase. I saw a bookcase. In my eye, it was a huge one. It was like a big bookcase on the back wall, and then all of a sudden I was taken outside. Like, then I see the blue skies, and I see all these pine trees, or all these trees. I see lush greenery. It wasn't really a pine tree. No, that was pine. I said pine trees. So it's, lush greenery and stuff. And then while I was talking, I heard scratching and scribbling. So I opened my eyes, and he was sketching something. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna keep going, And I was like, okay, well, I see you at the desk with the pendulum, like you're studying it, like it's going back, that you're using it diligently. And then I kind of ended it there because it kind of broke my concentration. And so what he showed me was his office layout. He drew it up on a piece of paper on the back of the worksheet that I gave, which is cool. He said, this is the desk you were talking about, and I do have a lamp, and the pendulum usually stays on the desk under the lamp. And to my right of that is a small bookcase that fits right under the window, and right out the window is my backyard. My backyard is nothing but trees and bushes and flowers and things like that. So you basically described my study. That's pretty freaking cool. So that was my cool experience. Indirect use of a pendulum through psychometry. So yeah, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, put them down below for me in the comment section. We'll have a discussion. And until next week, guys, many blessings.